The maidens held their breath, their eyes wide with anticipation. Lindiwe stopped near the same rock she had used the previous night. She looked around, making sure no one was watching. But this time, Cindy and the others were hidden well. Lindiwe didn't sense them. Slowly, Lindiwe removed her head, placing it gently on the rock. The maidens stifled gasps as they watched her hands begin to braid her hair with unnatural speed and precision. It was exactly as Cindy had described. The small village of Amanzi was alive with excitement. It was the night of the Great Dance Festival, a celebration held every year under the full moon. Villagers from all around gathered in the open square to watch the young maidens and men dance, sing, and show off their beauty and grace. The air was filled with the sounds of drums, the crackling of fire, and the smell of roasting meat. Among the maidens stood Lindiwe, her dark, flawless skin glowing under the moonlight. But it was not her beauty alone that made people whisper. It was her hair, her braids, to be precise. Lindiwe's hair was always braided in the most intricate patterns, and it shone as if each strand had captured the light of the moon. It flowed down her back in perfect rows, so smooth and neat that no other maiden in Amanzi could compare. Everyone admired Lindiwe's hair, but no one more than Prince Zola. The prince was the eldest son of the village chief and a strong warrior in his own right. His heart had been stolen the first time he laid eyes on Lindiwe's braids at last year's festival, and tonight, he could hardly take his eyes off her. As the drums grew louder and the dance began, Lindiwe moved gracefully, her braids swaying like waves in the ocean. Prince Zola watched, completely captivated. The other maidens danced around her, but none could match her beauty, and they knew it. A group of them, led by Cindy, a maiden with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue, exchanged jealous glances. "She thinks she's better than us with that perfect hair of hers," Cindy hissed under her breath. "She must have a secret," whispered Amara, another maiden. "No one's hair looks that good all the time." The jealousy among the maidens had been growing for months, but tonight, it boiled over. As they watched Lindiwe dance, they couldn't help but wonder how she managed to keep her hair so perfect. Every day, it looked freshly braided, not a single strand out of place. It wasn't fair, they thought. They spent hours braiding their own hair, only for the wind or the heat of the sun to undo their work by midday. As the night wore on, Cindy made up her mind. "I'm going to find out her secret," she said firmly. The other maidens nodded in agreement. They had to know what Lindiwe did to have such perfect hair. Was it a special oil? A magic comb? They couldn't rest until they found out. Little did they know that Lindiwe's secret was not something that could be easily uncovered. Prince Zola's heart was pounding as he watched Lindiwe dance. He had admired her for so long, but something always held him back from speaking to her. It wasn't just her beauty that made him hesitate. There was something mysterious about Lindiwe, something that made her seem different. He had often heard the whispers of the villagers. Some said she was too perfect, that no human could have such flawless braids. Others claimed she was a spirit, not of this world. Zola wasn't one to believe in village gossip, but he couldn't deny that there was something unusual about her. As the dance ended and the maidens gathered around the fire, Zola's thoughts were torn. He wanted to speak to Lindiwe, to ask her to dance with him, but what if the rumors were true? What if she was more than just a beautiful maiden? Before he could make a decision, his younger brother, Tebaho, nudged him. "You've been staring at her all night," Tebaho teased. "Why don't you just talk to her?" Zola shook his head. "It's not that simple." Tebaho laughed. "What's not simple about it? You're the prince. If you want to talk to her, talk to her. She's just a girl." Zola glanced at Lindiwe again. She wasn't just a girl. There was something about her that made her stand out from all the others. But what was it? Was it just her beauty? Or was it something more? As the fire crackled and the villagers continued to sing and dance, Zola made up his mind. He would speak to Lindiwe. He would ask her to dance with him, and maybe, just maybe, he would find out what made her so different. While the villagers danced and celebrated, Lindiwe slipped away from the crowd. She had felt the jealous eyes of the other maidens on her all night, and she knew that they would try to uncover her secret if they could. But Lindiwe's secret was not one she could share with anyone. She walked quickly toward the edge of the village, where the trees stood tall and the shadows were deep. Once she was sure no one was watching, she took a deep breath and whispered the words of an ancient spell. Slowly, her head began to loosen from her neck. It didn't hurt, it was a part of who she was. She was not like the other maidens. She was a spirit, born from the wind and the night. And with her head removed, she could braid her hair to perfection. Lindiwe carefully set her head down on a rock and began to braid her hair. Without the weight of her head, it was easier to reach every part of her scalp. Her fingers moved quickly, weaving the strands into intricate patterns, each braid as smooth as silk. In the quiet of the night, Lindiwe felt at peace. She loved this part of herself, even though she knew she had to hide it from the others. But tonight, she wasn't alone. Hidden behind a tree, Cindy watched in horror and fascination. She had followed Lindiwe, determined to discover her secret, but she had never expected to see anything like this. Her eyes widened as she watched Lindiwe remove her head and braid her hair with impossible speed and skill. Cindy's heart raced. She knew she had uncovered something powerful, something no one else knew. But what was she to do with this knowledge? The next morning, the village was bustling with excitement after the dance festival. But while everyone else spoke of the festivities, Cindy could think of nothing but what she had seen the night before. She had witnessed something that no one else in the village had ever seen, a secret that could change everything. Cindy was torn. Part of her wanted to tell the other maidens what she had seen, to show them that Lindiwe wasn't as perfect as they thought. But another part of her was afraid. What if Lindiwe's power was dangerous? What if the villagers didn't believe her? As she walked through the village square, Cindy's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of laughter. She looked up to see Lindiwe, once again, surrounded by admiring villagers. Her hair was as flawless as ever, each braid perfectly in place. The sight of it stirred something deep inside Cindy, something dark and bitter. "She's not so perfect," Cindy muttered to herself. "If only they knew what she does in the dark." Cindy's mind raced with thoughts of what she had seen. As the day wore on, her jealousy grew. She couldn't stop thinking about Lindiwe's power. Why should Lindiwe be the only one with such a gift? Why did she deserve to be admired by everyone? The more Cindy thought about it, the angrier she became. Later that afternoon, Cindy gathered the other maidens, Amara, Zuri, and Nandi, under the large baobab tree. They sat together, their faces curious but serious, sensing that Cindy had something important to share. "I've discovered Lindiwe's secret," Cindy whispered, her eyes narrowing. The other girls leaned in, eager to hear what she had to say. "What is it?" Zuri asked, her voice barely above a breath. Cindy hesitated for a moment, her heart pounding. Should she really tell them? But then she remembered how Lindiwe always seemed to outshine them all, always the one who caught everyone's attention, especially Prince Zola's. "Last night, I followed her after the festival," Cindy began, lowering her voice. "She went to the edge of the forest, and I saw something strange." She removed her head. The other girls gasped, their eyes wide with disbelief. "No, you're lying," Nandi said, shaking her head. "I'm not lying." Cindy insisted. "I saw it with my own eyes." She took her head off and braided her hair without it. "That's how she keeps her braids so perfect." Amara looked at Cindy with suspicion. "But how is that possible? No human can do that." "That's because she's not human," Cindy replied, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and excitement. "She's a spirit. That's why she's so perfect. That's why no one else can braid their hair like hers." For a long moment, the group sat in stunned silence, each of them trying to process what Cindy had said. Could it really be true? Was Lindiwe a spirit, hiding among them as a human? Zuri was the first to speak. If this is true, then we can't let her continue to fool everyone. We should tell the village. Cindy nodded, but something in her heart still held her back. What if telling everyone would only make things worse? What if Lindiwe's power was stronger than they realized? But her jealousy was too great to stop now. We will expose her, Cindy said, her voice firm. But we must be careful. If we reveal her secret too soon, she might use her powers against us. We need a plan. While the maidens plotted in secret, Prince Zola's mind was also troubled. All day, he had been thinking about Lindiwe. There was something mysterious about her, something he couldn't quite understand, but his heart couldn't resist her beauty. He knew he had to speak to her, even if his doubts lingered. That evening, as the sun began to set, Zola made his way to Lindiwe's home, a small hut at the edge of the village. His steps were slow, his heart racing. What would he say to her? How could he express what he felt? When he arrived, he found Lindiwe sitting outside, brushing her braids with a calm, graceful motion. She looked up as he approached, her eyes warm but cautious. "Prince Zola," she greeted him softly, "what brings you here?" Zola hesitated, suddenly unsure of himself. But he forced a smile and spoke. "Lindiwe, I have been thinking of you since the festival. Your beauty, your grace. I would be honored if you would join me for a walk tomorrow, by the river." Lindiwe looked at him carefully. She had sensed his interest in her for a long time, but something about the way he looked at her now made her feel uneasy. She knew that getting close to anyone, especially the prince, would make it harder to keep her secret. But Zola's kindness touched her heart. "I would be honored, Prince Zola," she replied, though her mind was filled with worry. As Zola left, his heart felt light, but Lindiwe's heart grew heavier. She was beginning to care for the prince, but how could she be with him when she wasn't truly human? How long could she keep up the illusion? The thought of her secret being discovered haunted her. That night, while the village slept, Cindy and the other maidens met once more under the baobab tree. They had decided that they would follow Lindiwe again, determined to catch her in the act and find a way to expose her. "We'll hide near the forest," Cindy instructed. "When she goes to braid her hair, we'll watch. This time, we'll have proof." The maidens, eager to uncover the truth, agreed. They crept through the village, making their way to the edge of the forest where Lindiwe had disappeared the night before. As they waited in the shadows, the forest was quiet, the only sound being the soft rustle of the trees. Hours passed, and the maidens began to grow impatient, wondering if Lindiwe would even appear. Finally, just as they were about to give up, they saw a figure moving through the trees. It was Lindiwe. She moved quickly and gracefully, just as she had before. The maidens held their breath, their eyes wide with anticipation. Lindiwe stopped near the same rock she had used the previous night. She looked around, making sure no one was watching. But this time, Cindy and the others were hidden well. Lindiwe didn't sense them. Slowly, Lindiwe removed her head, placing it gently on the rock. The maidens stifled gasps as they watched her hands begin to braid her hair with unnatural speed and precision. It was exactly as Cindy had described. The maidens' hearts pounded with fear and excitement. They had witnessed something truly incredible, but now the question remained, what would they do with this knowledge? After witnessing Lindiwe's secret for themselves, the maidens returned to the village with a mixture of awe and fear. They had seen something that no one else knew, and it gave them power. But with that power came a heavy responsibility. They couldn't simply expose Lindiwe without thinking about the consequences. "We have to be careful," Cindy warned, though her voice trembled. "If we reveal her secret too soon, she might turn her powers against us." "What if we speak to the village elders?" Nandi suggested. "They might know what to do." But Zuri shook her head. "No, we need to handle this ourselves. If the elders find out, they might protect her." She's too powerful for us to deal with directly. Cindy frowned, her mind racing. She didn't know what the right course of action was, but she knew one thing for certain: they couldn't let Lindiwe continue to deceive the village. They had to act, and soon. If you were in Cindy's position, would you reveal Lindiwe's secret or keep it hidden? What do you think should happen next? Let us know in the comments section. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss part 2 of this exciting story.